Hello there. Today I'm taking a look at a wine from southern France, from the Languedoc, as Vingt-Pédoc. This is Domaine de la Baume's La Jeunesse Syrah from 2021. Domaine de la Baume is situated in the village of Servian, which is about halfway between Béziers and the medieval town of Pézenas in the Languedoc. So sitting really right at the heart of Languedoc-Roussillon, one of the world's biggest wine producing areas. Domaine de la Baume is an estate of, I think it's about a little over 200 hectares, of which something like 176 are planted to vines. These vineyards are planted with international varieties, so they have planted here Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, Syrah, Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc and Viognier. Now, the modern history of Domaine de la Baume starts in about 1880, when the estate was bought by the Prat family. Particularly Jean Prat had a vision to create a high-quality wine estate in the Languedoc. He built a winery in the house La Folie, which still stands today and is a symbol of the estate. Essentially, Jean bought an estate that had been left fallow. There were no grapes growing there because phylloxera had very recently been through the region and everything had just simply been pulled up. So he set about replanting the vineyard. So at this time, this would have been with grafted vines. And Jean took the estate to a stage where it had over 100 hectares of vines planted. He was succeeded by his family, and the estate stayed in the Prat family until 1990. And at that stage, in a slightly unusual turn of events, it was bought by an Australian company, Hardy's, a family-owned winery at that stage. It was only 2 years later that they merged with Berry Romano to create BRL Hardy, a large wine group which is now part of Accolade. And Hardy's brought with them a completely different mindset. They brought with them knowledge of modern winemaking. They set about replanting the vineyard with international varieties, and they introduced such steps as machine harvesting, which was really quite revolutionary in this area in 1990. In 2003, the property was sold to the Helfrich family. They've continued the work of developing the property and of promoting its wine sales internationally. Not only did Hardy's introduce machine harvesting, they used the revolutionary step of harvesting at night when it was coolest and the fruit would suffer least damage. They replanted the vineyard. They very carefully selected the right variety to go to the right plot. And today, as vinification goes on, the different wines are vinified by their plot and only blended towards the end of the aging process. Red wines at Domaine de la Baume, such as this Syrah, undergo cold pre-fermentation maceration. So in other words, the grapes are kept cool, they're lightly crushed, and they're allowed to sit before the fermentation with the skins macerating in the juice. And this enables the extraction of delicate aromas that might be lost if they were gathered during a period of fermentation. It also gives the wine good colour. The notes I've got suggest that this underwent traditional winemaking. Would be nice to have a little bit more clarity as to exactly what they mean by that, but I would assume this means that the wine's been regularly pumped over to improve extraction during the period of maceration. There are also notes that suggest that this wine has been aged in barrel for somewhere a little over 12 months. I'm not completely convinced by that though, because there are other higher quality Syrahs from Domaine de la Baume, and I think there might be a little confusion there. I've also seen a suggestion that the wine matures in a combination of stainless steel tanks and small oak barrels. So it's possible that some of the wine spends 18 months in barrel and the rest stays in tank, and the combination of those two enables the winemakers to tone down the oak component somewhat. The wine's 100% Syrah and it has 14% alcohol according to its label. So let's have a look at it, shall we? We'll start off by saying the colour is a relatively dark ruby red with a purple note at the rim. It's not all that deep. I can see through the wine, I can see the stem of the glass looking through it, and I've got a fair depth of wine in there. The viscosity of the wine, it's got 14% alcohol according to its label. It's certainly enthusiastically throwing tears onto the side of the glass. Let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? The aromas are rich. There is a fresh, high-toned boysenberry, almost sort of purplish fruit note, but at the same time there are sort of slightly meaty, slightly milky notes. There's a sort of a certain smoothness to the aroma, but predominantly it's this juicy red to black fruit that you smell. So let's have a taste. The wine starts with really good freshness. There's a slightly sort of greenish, leafy nature to the fruit at the front palate, and that's somewhat accentuated by the freshness of the acidity. There's some lovely sort of red plum notes on the initial fruit on the palate. Behind that, there's a little bit of meatiness, and you start to see some classic Syrah spiciness, some sort of black peppery notes. And also there's this milky smooth note, and that's running right across the mid palate. The 14% alcohol is adding some weight and some richness. There's almost a little bit of overripe black fruit at the back of the palate. There's a quite sort of harsh, angular, drying note to the fine tannins. They're not as supple as I would ideally like. That gives the wine some grip. It's fairly mouth-watering, but currently the sort of drying tannins are not hugely attractive, and I'm not convinced that they will smooth out that quickly before the fruit goes into decline. The wine's at midweight. It has some of that sort of spicy, slightly meaty character that's typical of Syrah. It has a reasonable structure, and I would think that you'd be very happy to leave this to age for another couple of years. It certainly wouldn't hurt the tannins to become a little less astringent and drying. But there's good fruit, there's good freshness, there's a reasonable structure. I think, given that this is a very reasonably priced branded wine, this is actually offering some varietal character at really quite a good price. So I think well worth giving it a go. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the tasting. If you have, do please press the like button. Do please share it with your friends. Do consider signing up and joining us on YouTube. It would be fantastic to have your support. Any comments you've got, please leave them in the comments box below. And those can be about this wine, about other wines you've tried, about anything in relation. It'd be really interesting to hear from you. So thank you very much for watching, and I do hope you'll join us for another tasting in the very near future. Bye for now.